Okay, so it is 10:05, so let's dive in.
Rabbi, you wanted to start with that play
Let's
in?
end with that. We'll end with that, okay?
Play in. Okay, so
Okay.
you'd like me to put up Levi?
Yes, let's put up Levi or whatever his name is. And I want our learning today to be in honor of all those in Israel and in Palestine, praying for peace, praying for safety, praying for wisdom. All right, do we have somebody to read the Hebrew? This is...
Waiting for hand. Ben Shafran.
Okay, Ben, would you read the Hebrew?
Good morning.
Good morning.
למנצח על איילת השחר מזמור לדוד. אלי אלי למה עזבתני, רחוק משועתי דברי שאגתי, אלוהי אקרא יומם ולא תענה, ולילה ולא דומיה לי. ואתה קדוש, יושב תהילות ישראל, בך בטחו אבותינו, בטחו ותפלתמו. אליך זעקו ונמלטו, בך בטחו ולא בושו. ואנוכי תולד ולא איש, חרפת אדם ובזוי עם, כל רועי ילעיגו לי, יפטירו בשפה יניעו ראש, גול אל אדוני יפלטהו, יצילהו כחפץ בו. כי אתה גוחי מבטן מבטיחי על שדי אמי, עליך חשלחתי מרחם, מבין אמי אלי אתה. אל תרחק ממני, כי צרה קרובה, כי אין עוזר. סבבוני פרים רבים, אבירי ושן כתוני, פצעו עלי פיהם, אריה תועב ושואג. כמים נשפכתי והתפרדו כל עצמותיי, היה ליבי כדונג נמס בתוך מעי. יבש כחרש כוחי, ולשוני מודבק מלכוחי, ולעפר מוות תשפיטני. כי סבבוני כלבים, עדת מרעים הקיפוני, כארי ידיי ורגליי, אספר כל עצמותיי, המה יביטו יראו בי, יחלקו בגדיי להם, ועל לבושי יפילו גורל. ואתה אדוני אל תרחק, אילותי לעזרת חושה, הצילה מחרב נפשי. Sorry about that.
מיד.
חרב נפשי, מיד כלב יחידתי, הושיעני מפי אריה ומקרני ירמים מניתני. אספך שמך לאחי, בתוך קהל אהלליך. יראו אדוני, הללו כל זרע יעקב, כבדוהו, וגורו ממנו כל זרע ישראל. כי לא בזה ולא שיקץ ענות אני, ולא הסתיר פניו ממנו, ובשבו אליו שמע. מאיתך תהילתי בקהל רב, נדרי השלם נגד יראיו. יאכלו ענבים וישבעו, יהללו אדוני דורשיו, יחי לבבם לעד, יזכרו וישובו אל אדוני כל אפסי הארץ, וישתחוו לפניו כל משפחות גויים, כי לאדוני המלוכה ומושל בגויים. אכלו וישתחוו כל דשני ארץ, לפניו יוכרעו כל יורדי עפר, ונפשו לא חיה. זרע יעבדנו, יסופר לאדוני לדור, יבוא ויגידו צדקתו, לעם נולד כי עשה.
Thank you so much, Ben. And now let's have different people read 10 verses each in English.
Can Jeffrey Rogers start?
Yep. So let's do 10 verses so we'll have different voices for the
Jeffrey
English.
Or Debbie.
Okay. I mean, it'll be the last one will read 12. But.
Right. Jeffrey? Are you here, Jeffrey? All right. Or why don't you start?
For the conductor, upon Ayelet HaShachar, a psalm of David. Eli, Eli, my God, why have you abandoned me? Such a long way between my desolate words and my deliverance. My God, I cry out all day and you don't respond, all night and I don't get respite. But you are holy, sitting atop the praises of Israel. In you our fathers trusted, our mothers trusted, and you rescued them. To you they cried and they escaped. In you they trusted and were not ashamed. But I am a worm, not human, a reproach of humanity, despised by the people. All who see me mock me. They part their lips, they shake their head. Roll over to God. Let God rescue you. Let God deliver you. God favors you so.
Debbie, metric. And then Jack Neiman, then Simon. Debbie?
Yes. You are the one who draws me forth from the belly, teaching me trust at my mother's breast. I have been cast upon you from the womb. From the belly of my mother, you are my God. Do not hesitate. Do not be distant from me. Trouble is near, and there's no one to help. Great bulls have surrounded me. Powerful ones from Bashan have encircled me. Their mouths gape before me, each one a ripping, roaring lion.
Like water.
Wait. Not till 20, Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like water, I am all poured out. All my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax, melting into my inmost parts. My strength has dried up like a fragment of clay. My tongue is stuck to my jaw. You have deposited me on the dust of death. For dogs have surrounded me. A herd of wild men circle about me. Like lions, they snatch for my hands, my feet. I can count all my bones while they glower and stare at me. They divide my garments among them. They're casting lots for my clothes.
Jack?
And you, Adonai, don't stand far away. Ayuluti, my leader, hurry to my aid. Deliver my life from the sword, my only life from the power of this dog. Rescue me from the maw of the lion, from the horns of wild oxen you have answered me. Let me tell the story of your name to my family. In the midst of the community, I will sing your praise. You who revere Adonai, sing praise to God. Everyone of the seed of Jacob, lift your gaze to God. Stand in awe of God, every one of the seed of Israel. For the Holy One has not despised the afflicted in their affliction, has not treated them as detestable, nor hidden the face from them. And when they cried for help, God hearkened.
Keep going. Keep going.
From you flows my praise in this grand congregation. I shall pay the value of my vows before those who revere you.
Keep going until 29.
Okay. Let the humble afflicted eat their fill. Let those who seek Adonai sing praise, and may your hearts pulse with life forever. Let all the ends of the earth remember and return to Adonai. Let all the families of nations kneel before you, for sovereignty belongs to Adonai, who rules over the nations.
Simon or Sherry?
Let all the fat ones of the earth eat and kneel down. Before God, let all bow who will go down to dust, who cannot save their own lives. A seed will serve the Holy One. God's story will be told for generations. They will come forth and tell tales of your justice. To a people still unborn, they will sing what you have done.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to dive in. So the first thing to say, this might be the longest psalm we've encountered so far, if I'm correct, 32 verses. So we're going to move through it, but today we're going to focus on the beginning few verses. Tomorrow I'm going to DC because Randy's giving a major speech in DC in the conference room in her office building. There won't be many people there, but I'm going to go for it. So we'll do this and we'll do Chavruta tomorrow. So Chavruta will be tomorrow, but let's start. Salam Netzeach. So we start with the phrase for the conductor, which has become familiar to us, for the leader, something musical. But then we have something we haven't encountered before, Ayelet HaShachar. Now, if you're Israeli, you know there's a famous kibbutz called Ayelet HaShachar. And one of our CBST trips, actually, we stayed in the guest house. at Ayelet HaShachar. So, and you'll notice that Levi chooses not to translate it because he's not really sure what it means in this context, although the words, excuse me, the individual words are pretty clear what they mean. Levi's trying to say to us, we're not really sure what it means. So Ayelet, what's an Ayelet? Many of us know somebody named Ayelet, like Ayelet Cohen. Ayelet is a very common name. Ayelet is some kind of, is Ayelet the ibex or that's Yael? One is, I always mix them up. It's one of those, a deer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Psalm 18 was the longest, 51. Okay, thank you, Randy. So Ayelet is a deer. Hashachar means the morning. So we know what the words mean, but what Levi's pointing to us, we don't really know what it's referring to. This is a great example of probably was clear that maybe this was, and you'll see in some of the commentaries, maybe this was some kind of musical term or a way that it was sung or a way that it was played. We don't exactly know what the words mean. Ayelet HaShachar can also mean dawn, can also mean the beginning of the day, the deer. But we don't really know. This is an example of where knowing exactly what the words mean don't really tell us what they mean in this context. So that'll be a question how different commentators and interpreters even refer to Ayelet HaShachar. And then Mizmor LeDavid, a Psalm of David. So that's familiar. Now, this might be one of the most famous. First of all, this psalm is a very famous one because it's quoted a lot as a psalm of what to do when you're nothing else, you don't know what to do. And this phrase, Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, oh God, my God, why have you abandoned me, is a very, 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 very famous phrase.
Rabbi, how famous is it? How famous?
Very. How many varies did I do? Not only for Jews, but these are the words that Jesus uttered on the cross. So Jesus was quoting the Psalms, although when he says it on the cross, he used the language that you'll find in, I think it's Matthew. I'm not sure if it's in all the Gospels. I am far from an expert in the New Testament, the Christian Bible. But he's quoted as quoting this it's in Matthew, thank you, in Aramaic. This is the Hebrew, of course. And of course, Jesus would not have spoken Hebrew. The vernacular at the time of Jesus was Aramaic, which is a Semitic language. And that's why the reason that that's why the Gemara, the Talmud, discussion of the Mishnah is largely in Aramaic because Aramaic was the vernacular of the day. So Jesus, of course, would have spoken the vernacular. So while he is on the cross, he says these words, Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, but in Aramaic, knowing he's quoting from this psalm, from Psalm 22. So Psalm 22 is very significant in Christian liturgy, in Christian theology. It's important, by the way, for Jews too, absolutely. And there are 7 sayings of Jesus on the cross, which are very important for Christians. All 7 of those sayings are very important. And this is the 4th of the 7 sayings. So it's this. For a Christian, this word this sentence, this pasuk, this verse immediately evokes Jesus on the cross. For Jews, it evokes whenever we feel abandoned by God and are facing terrible persecution and terrible oppression. Later verses in this psalm are pointed to by Christian scholars and Christian theologians and Christianity as more evidence of Jesus's suffering on the cross itself. We'll get to those when we get to those verses. But so this psalm is used a lot in various places, both for Jews and for Christians. But I can't emphasize enough. So notice what Levi does. Eli, Eli, my God, my God. It's such a crying out that he actually repeats it, both in the Hebrew and then translating it. And different translators will focus in different ways in order to emphasize that very thing. I just want to read you something from All right. So Bernstein, for instance, says, why have you left me? My God, so far away and out of reach, more distant than a morning star. You see, she's referring back to Ayelet HaShachar. So this is very, very, very significant. I hope you've gotten how significant it is, right? So when Jesus says this, and I'm sure there are people here who know better, it's in the Gospels of Mark and Matthew. And you'll look when the translation happens, you see it's my God, why have you abandoned me? But if you see the actual words, it is the Aramaic. You won't see a Zavtani, but the Aramaic version of it.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I happen to have it right here.
Oh, great. Okay.
Actually,
let's look at it.
Well, it's actually the Greek. I'll scan it and send it to everybody because in Mark it's Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, because it's just a transliteration. And then in Matthew, it's Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani. So the Greek writers were transliterating, as they did sometimes, the Aramaic into Greek differently.
So hold on, you're saying, so the Greek, it's not actually Greek at that moment, it's the Aramaic? I didn't understand what you're saying.
So it's in Greek letters.
Uh-huh.
But it's the transliteration. It is the Greek transliteration of the Aramaic. So
interesting.
I'll scan it while we're talking. It's Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani in one, and then Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani in another. Greek is it's easy to pronounce. So this is words spelling out what would have been in Aramaic.
Very interesting. So they're actually trying to quote Jesus. They're not translating it.
No, they're right. No, they're quoting Jesus.
Right.
They're quoting Jesus in but they wrote in Greek. So they wouldn't have understood. Yeah.
So anybody else have any of those who are from Christian backgrounds have things to offer about this verse? Because I'm sure no matter what your backgrounds as Christians, you encountered it. And I know we have a few people here who are. If anybody wants to add something about
Jack Neiman and raised his hand.
I never knew that this was from Psalm 22.
Yep.
And Dorina just wrote that too. And, and they said it so like, it was like Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. I mean, but it was, and the interpretation is very different, this whole Psalm for the Christians.
Tell me about that, Jack. What?
Well, because they see it not as God abandoning Jesus, because how could he abandon?
Right, it poses a theological crisis for Christianity, right? Go ahead.
Okay, so because, all the teachings and everything, so he wasn't being abandoned, and they see it as, Jesus dying and the sacrifice for all of the, transgressions and what have you. So they see it as a prophecy.
Right, because it's a theological conundrum, right? Because God can't be abandoning Jesus.
Exactly.
Okay, Harold, do you want to read this for us? So where is it?
So here is, this one is Mark, and it's Kaitain. Well, so this is Eloi, Eloi, lema sabachthani, in the same Greek letters as the rest of the text.
I see, interesting.
And then, and so it's, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Ho estin methef ho theosmu. And then here it is. See, this is Eli and this is Eloi with different spelling. Lema is the same and sabachthani is the same, sabachthani, just the way that Hebrew is transliterated. How do you spell Hanukkah? Nobody in English, nobody knows. They were just trying to capture what the Aramaic would have sounded like. And so I have to look and see how it's translated in the, if you give me a minute, I'll find out how it's translated in the Septuagint to see which one they use.
Right, so sabachthani is Aramaic. For the reason that it's different than the azavtani, which is Hebrew, is, as I said, Jesus would not have been speaking Hebrew, he would have spoken Aramaic. So that's why the word is a little bit different. So that's why, I'm just looking up this other, So I want to hear any other people. Darina, do you have, or Alicia, any other thoughts or reactions to seeing this in the Psalms? Dean Dresser.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this was central in like the Good Friday worship, Holy Thursday going into it. And that this when Jesus Christ said this, it's an expression of his deepest humanity.
Say that again, Dean.
So that his humanity, so that it was to show that he shared our fear, that he went to the depths of it to be a redeemer. So he has a split role of being profoundly human and at the same time being
beautiful. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
Catherine Keenan.
Hi, I was raised as a Christian, and I've heard many sermons, and I've been to many Christian services, and I don't know if you know, but often they give a reading from the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, and a reading from the New Testament.
Yes.
Lots of Psalms, lots of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, the whole thing. I have never heard of this Psalm. I have never heard Psalm 22.
But have you heard the phrase?
I know the phrase, my God, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
That's the King James Version. But this whole Psalm is a complete surprise to me. And not as far as, you know, as a Protestant, not commonly quoted as far as I know. But the Christian religion is so diverse, and there's so many different kinds of Bibles now.
Right.
It's hard to say, but this is a complete surprise to me, Psalm 22.
Right. But the phrase that Jesus says is quoting this Psalm. That's the point.
Right. That's
Even
right.
if the rest of the Psalm. So if you look ahead, for those especially want to see the Christian, verses 16, I think, through 19 or 20 are also ones that certainly Christian scholars will look to and say those are also references to Jesus on the cross. If you look ahead at verses 16 through 19. But thank you, Catherine. But that's what I'm saying, how predominant the Psalms are, that Jesus himself is quoting a Psalm in this moment of being on the cross, which then makes it extremely significant for Christians, of course.
Do you think he's quoting a Psalm?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's zero question about that.
So usually when Jesus quotes the Hebrew Bible, Jesus is quoting the Greek version in the Septuagint. And in the Septuagint, here is Psalm 22, which is Psalm 21 in the Septuagint. Right. And in Greek, oh my God, my God, my God, you have forsaken me, is ho theos mu, pros ches moi. It's not a question. It's not a question here. It's you have forsaken me, and that is the Bible that the Jews in Palestine would have probably been reading at this time. And it's very interesting that he does not quote it in the Greek translation as he normally does. He quotes it in the Aramaic. So it's sort of like he quotes it. It's quoted in the language that Jesus would have spoken, not the scholarly language.
Exactly. He was saying a prayer and quoting a psalm the way we do. I mean, it's pretty amazing. He absolutely was quoting this psalm. That's and I think
I had no idea. I mean, these words are so well known.
Exactly. You see that? That's what's fun about doing the Psalms. You don't know how much is there that you had no idea.
No idea.
No idea. So much fun.
So
interesting. Thank you so much.
Gail Meister has had her hand up for a while.
So adding to what Dean said, in many Protestant circles, there would be a service on Good Friday afternoon. Good Friday is the Friday before Easter. So on the cross, then he dies, and it's a time of a service from 12 to 3 often, and deeply meditative and really getting into the pain and the suffering of the day. So really experiencing that, whereas Easter is the ta-da, he is risen.
Right. Thank you. Alicia, I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
I'll just add one point, because it's in Lisa, I think, had mentioned in the Jewish annotated New Testament, which I think is quite good for both parts in Matthew and Mark. The sense of abandonment, which will come up in the rest of the Psalm, is what's so central, I think, particularly in the services on Good Friday or whenever, and whether it's, as Dean said, that it's the most human of Jesus and the most sort of divine, of being rejected by Jesus's fellow people, by the Roman state, and maybe by God. That question is really, I think, central, especially in the whole of the crucifixion narrative. So it's Jesus being abandoned given over to the Roman state, to be persecuted by the state, to be in that sense of just like, who do you call out to? And it's so profound. And I think I think I didn't know that this was from the Psalms. You hear that quite a lot growing up Christian, but this sense of sheer abandonment is part of the narrative in the Christian gospel, and it's what we see in this psalm. And so I think they dovetail really nicely without getting into the issues of the rest of the Good Friday service, which has so many problems.
Ben Shafran.
I mean, I don't bring a Christian understanding to this, but I couldn't help notice reading in the Hebrew that there's quite a reference, which is famous, to the Roman soldiers throwing dice about the clothing. And also the phrase about I'm a worm and despised. I mean, that's the walk, that's the Stations of the Cross, how despised he was. But I have a question about the language. You keep saying that he would have spoken Aramaic and not Hebrew. So it brings a question. The Mishnah was written at the same time that it was in Hebrew, and then the Gemara ended up being Aramaic. Do you have any sense why the divergence?
Yes, there's a lot about that. So the Mishnah is by and large in Rabbinic Hebrew, and the Gemara is in largely in Aramaic. And the Mishnah is from this period as well, because it was they were writing in what they saw as the scholarly language. And there was probably some holdovers of some of the scholars. Jesus was probably not a scholar. He was probably not the elite intellectual class. He was probably much more like the Baal Shem Tov, much more like a Magid that would travel around telling stories. And so, like we saw for those in the Yiddish class, there was a real distinction between the Yiddish and Hebrew. There was somewhat of the same thing starting to happen around the turn of this millennium period between Hebrew, which was still being used in intellectual kind of elite circles. And I don't say elite in a negative way. I mean, kind of a higher level of education, a higher level. And Jesus was probably not in that group. He was more a person of the people. And in fact, he expressed and he walked, and in his traveling around, he made it a point in the Gospels of going to where the people lived and being very much, really, and very much a similar. By the way, he was not alone. There were other rabbis like him whose job it was to really be among the people. And then there were the intellectuals who were in the ivory towers, so to speak. You know, we know those kinds of differences. So language shifts. It's not quite so, okay, on this day we stop speaking this language and on the next day. But by the time, so if we think of the Missionaic period is around from a little bit before the time of, oops, did everybody just freeze? Did everybody just freeze? Did you lose me?
No, we're fine. You're there.
Okay, so the Missionaic period is roughly from a little bit before the time of Jesus to about 200 after Jesus. It's roughly about 200 years. And then the Gemara or Talmud is from about the year 200 of the Common Era to about 500. It's more fluid than that, but those are helpful numbers for a framework. So the rabbis of the earlier period were the Mishnah rabbis. I won't get more complicated than that. And they by and large wrote in Hebrew. And then the rabbis of the Gemara period from about 200 to 500, by that point, nobody was really speaking Hebrew, though everybody studied Hebrew and everybody could read and understand Hebrew of the intellectual class. Hebrew is always understood, always spoken in an intellectual way and studied as a text, but it stopped being the language of common everyday conversation. So there's a shift going on in this period. And Jesus, by speaking Aramaic, he's speaking to Amcha. He's speaking to the people. because that's what the regular people would have been speaking. But for sure, the rabbis who wrote in the Mishnah also totally understood Aramaic. It wasn't that, but yeah. And there is some Aramaic in the Mishnah. It's not, again, I'm giving you kind of big framework. It's just to simplify.
So Rabbi, when he read in the temple, did he read in Aramaic?
When he read in the temple, you mean when he went up to the tax, to the interest, the money exchangers?
No, I understood.
Jesus had an aliyah. When Jesus went in aliyah.
No, I don't know enough about Jesus. I could look that up, but I would bet it was Aramaic, but I don't know that. I don't know enough.
I would just venture that it was in Hebrew, and then there was someone standing by who translated it simultaneously into Aramaic, possibly.
Yeah, I just don't know. Honestly, I took one class in the New Testament, so I am far from, I know very little. I'm really a beginner. I'd love to learn more, but I'm giving you, I'm being, honest at my level. So I'm happy if there are people here who know more than I do.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I think I can't read the number with a 19 roll is, I think it translates into the Matthew and Mark too, this line, roll over to God, let God rescue you, let God deliver you, God favor you. So like the jeering.
Hold on, where are you? You're in the Psalm?
Yeah, I think that is actually quoted in Matthew and Mark as the jeering Roman soldiers. That's always been a part of it. Like, if you're so great and your God is so great, roll over to God, let God rescue you. Like,
what verse? Just tell me, what verse are you on?
9.
Oh, 9.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, this psalm is used a lot in various places to explore, for other evidence of Jesus on the cross. Other verses, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you're interested, do some research on your own and bring it into the class. Today, we're not going to be able to do much more. This is the big introduction to this psalm, which is a very complicated one. But let me reassure you and also emphasize that this phrase, Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, is a deep Jewish cry. And Jesus using it, he was saying it as a Jew when he was quoting that. So if this is a great phrase to memorize in Hebrew or in the English exists, but it's so beautiful. There are many, 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 many different musical settings, and maybe we'll get to explore more of them as we explore this psalm. And so tomorrow we're going to, in Chavruta, study the psalm and then pick it up again, not Monday, not Tuesday. Those are both Shavuot. So we will be meeting again after tomorrow, next Wednesday. Okay, so there are no regular classes on Monday and Tuesday, but you could come to services on Tuesday morning, and I'm going to be teaching about the book of Ruth, and Sunday night, but no Psalms. I just hope everybody's clear about the schedule. And to keep, if you want to study in Chavruta, study on your own, study these texts of Psalm 22. And tomorrow we'll do it in Chavruta. But before I want to play this piece of music, let's do a couple of more comments, and then we're going to play this piece of music.
All right, Sherry or Simon?
Yes, Handel actually quotes this exact psalm, Psalm 22:8, in Messiah. He trusted in God. He trusted in God that he would deliver him. If he delights in him, let him deliver him. And people laughing at him, scorning him, etc. There's a whole piece.
Well, great. Let's gather these things, and maybe you could find a good recording of that to share with us. But Psalm 22 has a lot of interesting pieces to it.
Chazan Hirsch.
I wrote a lot about this in the chat, but another important evolution of this phrase is in a Yiddish song that was composed in 1896 and became popular in 1917 through 1920. And it was later revised by Chazan Yosele Rosenblatt and was featured in the first talkie film, The Jazz Singer.
Wow, can we get maybe next Wednesday, can we have a recording of that to listen to? That would be fantastic.
I'm on it.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, that was all the comments.
All right, so we're going to play a setting to this this line, and I hope you get pleasure from it, and I encourage you to keep looking for those. All right, go for it, Harold.
Hold on, I'm just going to put in the chat in a description of who is singing it, because it's beyond fascinating, I have to say.
Yes.
It's really unbelievable. Grip your seats, folks. All right, so hold on. Wait, let me make sure I get the sound right. Let me do this right. This is such an exciting class. I'm all famished here. Okay, here we go. Whoops. Okay.
So I should have said she's pretty fabulous, isn't she? She's one of my favorites. And she starts out with that verse and continues on. The other, for those who don't understand the Hebrew, she continues chanting, singing. The rest continues down through Psalm 22. So it wasn't only that first verse. It's many other verses as well. And if you could follow in the Hebrew, her Hebrew is quite clear. It's easy to hear it, but I wanted to make clear that it starts with the Eli, Eli, and then goes down. I think she got to maybe verse 9.
No, it sounded like
so. Yeah.
So she,
right. Yeah.
So she is if the psalm were a Gregorian chant,
yes,
what it would have sounded like in Hebrew. And I'm just blown away.
It is really, she's extraordinary.
Right in the Facebook page.
Yeah.
All right.
So we will share with everybody. She's very, very special. And this is incredible chanting of this psalm. And Shari and Debbie and all those in Israel, we are sending our love and support, and stay in touch.
So we'll be in Kavruta with Levi tomorrow?
Yes, with Levi tomorrow to just work our way through the.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See you Friday night.